All right. Hello, everyone, and welcome. We are live. Hope everybody is doing well tonight. Potham, good to see you over there on the Twitch side. We're going to be kind of picking up where we left off last night. I did and didn't get some things done off camera. I'll kind of talk about that just in a second. But before we do, I do want to just jump in to give a quick thanks to all of the supporters of the channel, beginning with the highest tier of subscription, the Elite Partner, Javier Lazaran, followed by the partners Good Bullies Inc. and Matt Oscard, followed by a combination of the other supporters you see here scrolling across the screen there, a combination of the other tiers of support over on YouTube memberships, Patreon, as well as Twitch subscriptions. So thank you all very much for that support. It's greatly appreciated and helps me cover the cost of running the channel. Things like software licenses, hosting fees, eventually assets, things of that nature. So I really greatly appreciate it, and thank you all for that. In addition, I do want to extend a large thank you to all of you, the viewers, whether you're joining us here on the YouTube side or the Twitch side live, or if you're catching the VOD after the fact on the YouTube channel. Thank you guys so much for being here. Without you guys, this project or this channel would not exist. So I appreciate each and every one of you guys. All right. So with that, we are going to actually pick up in extending our editor a little bit more tonight. And last night we kind of talked about, maybe having some sort of tree available of all of the items within the scene, where we can just kind of click into that list and be able to select things as opposed to having to find them visually. And the reason for that would be, if we, say take an object like this tree and move it, quite a large way into the distance, say even out of clipping plane distance, like that. If we were to deselect that, we actually have no way to get it without actually going all the way over there to where we actually put it and trying to select it that way. And that's obviously not optimal, right? We can, select it and then, put it back to 0 if we want to do. And that's all well and good. It looks like we have an issue there with updating the position of the gizmo when we actually do this update too. So we'll need to look at that. But the primary goal for tonight is going to be having a way to list out all of the entities in a particular scene. So what we're going to do is I think we're going to go ahead and add some more buttons here. And my first thought is maybe we should have something in here maybe called tree. That's just a tree view that allows us to select those things, and then we can switch back to entity and be able to modify the properties of that. We may also wind up having some other buttons here for specific types of entities to like add them or modify them or something along those lines. But I think for now we're going to add the tree just as it's sort of its own little button there. So with that, let's go over to the editor. And one thing I do want to mention is offline, I was taking a look at some of the performance issues that we were having, and I did try to at least split some of that shader logic out, but I wasn't able to complete it before we actually started the stream here, so I had to stash a lot of those changes. And so that is coming, but it's like 90% of the way there. I just have some things to figure out, and I didn't really want to troubleshoot that on the stream. Okay, so let's go to initialize, because that's where all of our UI things are configured. And we have our buttons here. So we have a save button, we have the scene mode button, and we have the entity mode button. So what I'm actually going to do is I'm going to take the scene mode button, and I'm going to copy paste that whole section for now. And we're going to call this tree mode. And so this is going to be mode tree button, and we're going to have to go to the state. And let's see. So we have, let's see, main window. So we have the button and the label for each one of these things. So let's actually just take the entity one here, and we're going to just rename that to tree. And the reason I'm calling this tree is because we're going to literally build out a visual tree of how the scene looks. Hopefully, complete with the ability to collapse the nodes and all of that stuff. Did one of the hardest things in game engine development today, naming the engine. Yes, I understand that totally and completely, Apotham. What did you name your engine, out of curiosity, if you want to disclose it? It actually took me upwards of a month to come up with the name for Kohi, and I wasn't even really sold on it when I did it. Still not completely sold on it, to be honest with you, but it's 5 years in, so I can't really change it at this point. So let's do mode tree button. So we'll just change this all the way down. Now, obviously, we need to write some functions to sort of automate some of this a little bit to make it a little bit easier for us to do, but for now, not going to worry about it. So the Y needs to be updated to 150, just to give us that space there. The X is going to remain 0, and that's why I copied the scene mode button, because that's all the way to the left already. So there's that, and then we have mode tree label. So we're going to go all the way here and do mode tree label. And again, we're just going to apply that all the way down, except for here. That needs to be button, right? Because we're parenting it to that. So mode tree label. And then mode tree label. A couple more times. And oops, let's see, mode. Okay, so these are the buttons, so this needs to be tree. So these are the individual properties that we're setting for that particular button. Now, we have the mode scene button clicked. We need a new one of these. So we're going to put that in here and call it mode tree button clicked. We'll go ahead and skip down here to this guy. And we'll go ahead and I'm actually just going to copy pasta this. And we're going to say mode editor mode tree button clicked. And then we're going to set the editor mode. We're going to add a new editor mode. Okay. So we'll change that to tree. And then editor set mode. Oops, is going to, let's see, do we actually need to do, so get an inspector base for mode. So we need to edit this. We need to add a new entry here. Whoops. After this, let's take the scene one as an example. All right, so editor mode tree. And then scene inspector BG panel. I don't think we actually added one for this yet, so we actually need to add this in. So this is going to be, instead of the scene inspector, we're actually going to need all of this stuff. So we're going to need a copy of all of that stuff. And we're going to go down to the bottom here and create new. So instead of scene inspector, this is going to be, I guess we'll call it tree. Oops. So we'll say tree inspector all the way down. All right, that's those controls. And then we'll say here tree inspector window. I guess tree inspector window doesn't really make sense. We'll call it just tree window, right? Tree, yeah, that's fine. Tree window is fine. And we'll do tree inspector BG panel, all right? And so what that does is it basically gets that background panel and returns it, and then we can set that active and visible. So now if we go back to initialize, oops. If we go back to initialize, we can actually come down to, we have the tree button here. We need to change this to say tree button clicked. I think we've got that hooked up. Yep. All right. And now I'm actually going to take from the scene inspector panel or scene inspector window because it's a little bit more basic. And so I'm going to skip past the entity inspector and go straight to the scene inspector copy that we made here. So I'm going to call this the tree window panel. So essentially, and I think I can probably do I don't want to do a global find and replace, but what I can do is I can just do that. And it should just work all the way down. I probably could have automated this through a, through a macro, but it's just sometimes faster for me to just hit the keys. Okay, so tree name text box. Okay, so we don't need this tree name text box. We don't need the name label. We're actually going to do away with that bit. I'm going to come back to that. Really, for now, all I want to do is verify that the tree window panel shows up. So we have the label here, and this is just going to be scene tree is what we'll call it. And perhaps we could have put this under scene, but the reason I didn't do that is because the panel for this is going to be pretty much filled up with like all of the objects within the scene. And so I didn't want to like fit that and the sort of global scene properties into the same window. So that's my reasoning there. Let's see. So I think that should actually probably be it. Let's go ahead and build this. And we'll go ahead and run. And load up. Switch into the editor. All right, what did I miss? Let's see. Got a seg fault here on update. Where did that, okay. So, what did we get here? Where's the seg fault? That's kind of large. Transform system update, copy memory, state capacity, world matrices. Are we over capacity on matrices? I can't believe that. There's no way. There is absolutely no way. Let me relaunch this real quick. Okay. Let me catch up on chat and then I'll look at this a little bit further. As enjoy of Kohi, drink and the game engine. I like the name. Yeah, that was my reason, right? Like I love coffee. I drink the crap out of it every day. So that was why I liked the name. But I don't know. At the time, I know I wasn't sold on it. Let's see. What do you think is the best order for learning a programming language, say C++? What is the exact order of learning you'd follow if you were to start again? I don't mean the order of concepts, but the order of resources. Order of resources. I'm going to assume you mean by that, like, whether you get a book for it or whether you try to read up online or whether you just try to do the thing, right? Usually what I suggest, or usually the way that I approach learning a new language, is I get a book about that language. And I do a little bit of research to find out what is one of the better books for that particular language that I'm trying to learn. And then I will read through that book at least once and try to implement the concepts as I go through the book. And then at that point, I think I'll probably move on to, trying to do some things on my own with that language. Usually one of the things that I suggest to people when learning C or C++, for example, is implementing a string library from scratch. So not using any of the built-in string functions to build all that stuff on your own. Because by the time you're done with that, and you've implemented a string library like that is as capable as one of the ones in, say, JavaScript or C# in terms of string handling, that has all of those functions along with it, you'll be pretty well versed in the language, I would say. So yeah, I usually would get a decent book, try things as you go along, and then from there, just kind of try to start small projects and then get larger and larger projects. So again, it depends on the language. A lot of higher level languages have string libraries, so it's not going to really apply there. But for C or C++, that's usually what I would recommend. I hope that helps. I hope that's what you're looking for. Game engine is named Residua. Has a bit of a personal meaning as it's taken from the word residual since I've given up and returned to making game engines so many times now. I get that. I like it, actually. Needed a unique name. And the first 40 or so were taken. 40? You came up with 40 names that were taken? I kind of want to see that list, I'm not going to lie. 40, that's pretty impressive. Let's see. If I've never have to see the phrase segmentation fault ever again in my life, I would be a happy man. Yeah, I mean, that's fair enough, but then again, it's also super specific as to what it is, right? Like, what's happened if you segfault, right? You're writing to, reading from or writing to memory that you shouldn't be. So yeah, ultimately, you done messed up Ron if you get a segfault. Any book recommendations you have? That's exactly what I was looking for. Thank you so much. All right, cool. So, let's see. So I'm going to recommend two different things. I guess I'm going to talk about two different things when it comes to books. This is the book I learned C from. It's Sam's Teach Yourself C in 24 Hours. Now, this is an okay book. I've mentioned this several times on the stream. This is what I actually use to learn the language. However, the better book, probably in the long term, is going to be this one, which is the C programming language, right? And so this is what everybody refers to as KNR. So anytime you see KNR, you're talking about this book. And so I would actually say between the two of them, there's quite a lot of good stuff in here. And so these are really good resources. I would probably these days, I would recommend the C programming language book over the Sam's Teach Yourself C in 24 Hours. But since I'm talking about like how I learned it, I did actually use this book first. And so this one was written in, I want to say this one was written in like, when was it? 97. Yeah, I was going to say 99, but it was actually written in 97. And then the C programming language was actually written in, let's see, I think it's been updated a few times, but looks like 1988 was the first version of it. I could be wrong on that, but that's what the book actually has like inside of it. So, but those are two books that I would say read. I would read both of them because they're a little bit different in terms of perspective. But you know, if you're looking for one over the other, K&R is probably the way to go. All right. Let's see. Dingus Dev, good to see you. Mesmeroth, haven't caught one of your streams in a long time. What are your thoughts on data-oriented design versus OOP? How do I put this? Use the right tool for the job, right? So we don't use much OOP here, although in terms of things like the UI, we kind of touch a little bit on some OOP-y topics. But for the most part, I tend to avoid OOP in general. It tends to get in the way more than it helps. However, there are times when, you know, using some of the concepts from that can help. So, yeah, I don't really have strong feelings on either. I think data-oriented programming is, or data-oriented design rather, is useful. It is performant. It doesn't apply to everything. You can't just say, you know, I'm going to have a structure of arrays and call it data-oriented design. It's going to be better. No. You really have to think about the actual problem that you're trying to solve, reason about the data, and go with that as a solution. You know, you have to consider how you access the data, how you need to modify the data, and how that's going to work in cache, right? That's really going to be the best way to do it. And going too granular on the sort of data-oriented design, especially if you go super granular on like structure of arrays, you can go too far in the opposite direction and actually have it be a bad thing, right? So it really is a use the right tool for the job type of thing. Sam's Teach Yourself books brings me back to the feelings of days gone by and makes me feel old. Tell me about it, brother. Tell me. At the ripe old age of 40, I understand you. C over C++ is making a difference to learn C++ from C. What are the major differences, in your opinion, between C and C++? That's an easy answer. I always suggest that somebody learns C before C++. Multiple reasons for that. C is a far simpler language, for one thing. It'll be easier to wrap your head around without all of the sort of C++ stuff that's out there, especially modern C++. And if you have a solid understanding of C, it will actually improve your understanding of C++ when you make that jump, especially things around dealing with memory and pointers. So the reason I always say start with C over C++ is because C++ forces you to deal with pointers and memory. And if you have those concepts on lockdown, by the time you jump to C++, it will be much, much easier than the other way around. Let's see. How much math or calculus have you actually had to use while working on the engine? A crap ton. A crap ton. We've actually written like our own library here, which I'm just going to scroll through it very fast. So this is just the header file, right? So there's some inline functions here with like vector math and things like that. But there are some things in here that deals with trig as well, especially when it comes to, you know, determining, you know, collisions between arrays and oriented bounding boxes and things like that. You know, there's a lot of it in here. So I'm still scrolling, by the way. This is still, I'm not even all the way through the header file yet. So this is our entire math library, and there's a ton of that stuff in here. And so that's just the header file. And then the C file isn't quite as long. I need to actually move some of the stuff that's in the header file to the C file. But even that is, you know, a few hundred lines long. Let's see. So that's, you know, 500 lines long. versus the header file, which is what, 2,700 lines long. So yeah, we've used a lot of it for sure. Pale Blue Zebra with a 3-stream streak. Thank you much for that. I appreciate you tuning in. Once I learned C, made learning every other language I've had to so much easier. I would 100% agree. If you learn C, it gives you such a great basis to learn any other language out there, including C++. It just makes things make more sense versus doing it the other way around. Let's see. Gadub, how's it going? Good to see you. Roman General, good to see you as well over there on the YouTube side. Game Engine Book is GOAT. Either C or C++ or Zig or JS, just use the right tool for the right job. Yeah, that's another thing, right? Like, use the right tool for the right job, of course. C CPP 99 before C CPP 2019. 100% agreed on that too. Yeah, definitely start with the older versions of the language. You don't need to go to like C89. That's a little bit extreme. C99 will pretty much run on anything now. I did not. I learned C++ first and then learned C, but I stuck with C++ and it's been 15 years. Yeah, so I did the same thing, right? I learned C++ first, and then I realized that like a lot of my C++ code, probably because it was driven by who I was kind of inspired by, but a lot of my C++ code was very close to C, and so I always called it like C++ light. When I was making the decisions on starting this engine, I was actually like, you know what? Instead of C++, I'm writing C++ light, which is extremely similar to C, minus a couple things. I'm like, why don't I just try writing it in C? And I took that as a challenge, and here we are a few years later, and I still stuck to C. I never made it to moving back to C++. I kind of went to C land and stayed there. Keep crashing my computer, too lazy to put VMs together. By the way, my 99 before 29 was a baseless claim. They just made major changes to the language around that time. Yeah, so, but I still kind of agree with you, right? Like, I would absolutely stick with the 99 versions of the language before anything more new than that. Even in C++, when I was writing C++, before I switched to C in this project, the latest C++ I ever used was 2011, C++ 11. I just don't use most of the stuff that is there, and there's good reason for that. Let's see. I'm still 17 and want to learn programming language for fun more than anything seems to be the way for me then. Yes. I guarantee you, like, I wish that when I was 17, I had learned C. 100%. It would have set me up a hell of a lot better. I actually learned some higher level languages before that and had to like step backwards, and it was much harder. So you're much better off, taking the brunt of that now, and it'll pay dividends later. I guarantee you that. If I recall correctly, somewhere on your YouTube channel, you started a game engine, or was it a Vulkan renderer that was in C++? Yes, I did. I actually had started. Do I actually still? I don't know if that's still up. Let me check. Let me see. Give me a second here to find it. I think
You dingus.
It might still actually be up. Maybe. It's going to be a few years back now.
You dingus.
Let's see. Give me just a second here to... thought I had it in here. Maybe I took it down. I don't know. Was it a live stream? I can't remember. I did have... Might have been a live stream. I can't remember. I'll have to find it. But yeah, there is one. I just don't remember if... I don't remember if it was a... Maybe that's... Let's see. Vulkan Game Engine live stream. Looks like I did have a couple of them. Yeah. Okay. Yeah, there were a couple. I think I made it like 3 episodes in and then decided I did not want to go the C++ route. But yeah, they're there. They're still up there, actually. Thank you for the follows, by the way. Appreciate that. Need my C11 at least. I love atomics. Fair enough. Yeah. I just say, you know, start with C99 and then move up from there.
Dingus.
Thank you for the follow. 35 and just getting started with C, mostly just to mess around with. That's a good place to start, though. I don't care how old you are. Actually, what's funny was... You know what's hilarious about that, actually? So I'm 40 now, and I started this project 5 years ago. Just under 5 years ago. So I would have been 35 at the time, give or take. And I made the jump to C at that point. So, yeah, that's actually very funny. So we're basically in the same boat. You're just a little bit, you know, behind me time-wise. Seeing you over on YouTube. How's it going? Good to see you. Software licenses will dictate a lot of the development in the market sector. Yes. C Vulkan series is how I got introduced to this channel. Okay, yeah, that makes sense. I did have a couple of things where I was experimenting around with writing a renderer in C++, but I decided not to go that route. And I'm glad I did, thankfully. Let's see. I learned C# and it was going out of style. As it was going out of style. I wouldn't say that C# has gone out of style. C# is still very, very popular. I've written a lot of software in C#. I don't write it in that anymore, but in the past I definitely did. C, C++, and Rust will be timeless. I don't know. I think Rust to me seems hot take here, and I'm not gonna. I don't want to get into like language wars or anything, but Rust to me seems like a fad that's going to die off at some point. Whereas C and C++ have been around for forever, and I think they still will be. I could be wrong, but I don't think I am. There's just the open source version of everything else these companies try to make proprietary. Yeah, true. I wouldn't be surprised if some company tried to take this and make it proprietary, although what rubbish if they did that. Coffee Lava, how's it going, buddy? Good to see you. How have you been? Diamond, good to see you as well. Daily language wars. Yeah, I try not to engage in that, right? But like there are certain things I just can't deny. All right. Where the heck even was I? So did I? Oh, I see. What? Did I accidentally paste something into... What line was that again? Wow. Okay. How did I manage that? All right. So, let me try and run this again because I don't remember where we were. I think we segfaulted on something. Probably something stupid. Yeah. Copy memory. Okay, so Transform system update. Mapped transforms. Ooh, are we out of state capacity? That doesn't seem right. Something is sus, for sure. There's no freaking way that's our capacity and our allocated is that. What in the devil is going on here? I backed a whole bunch of changes out before I started the stream. I wonder if I didn't get all of them. Because I was directly messing with memory pre-stream. Let me just go through some of my diffs here because I might have actually left something in that shouldn't have been left in. And I might need to just undo that. I don't think so, but we shall see. Okay, so that's the new tree stuff. That's the new state that we added. And then that is the new function that I just added. So that should be fine. That's just adding the new mode, the new controls. We renamed all of those. The transform system, I just removed something that got pasted into there accidentally. That happens to me every once in a while. I have no idea why. I think there's something buggy with the old clipboard. Ye old clipboard. Okay, so this is the fix that I put in last night, so that should be fine. I don't see anything there. And I don't see anything here either. We got rid of the spawn point type. There it goes. Okay, so I'm thinking that this might actually be something else that we haven't seen yet. So when we do the updates, we are copying all of the world matrices into the mapped memory for the SSBO. Now, obviously, what's happening here is we are overflowing, right? Like, our capacity is nowhere freaking near that. So, let's take a look at K-transform system. And then we have, let's see, we have ensure allocated, but we have an initial slot count of 128. And then when we do ensure allocated, that's based off of that. That should be fine. I don't see anything in here that is immediately wrong. So I'm going to guess, let's actually put a breakpoint on ensure allocated, because I have a feeling that there's something foobar going on with that. Right, so we'll just go ahead and put that here. And we're actually going to skip past it the first time. So it should give us 128 slots at first. So I can load this and that's fine. And we obviously still haven't hit that capacity. And then I'm going to load up the editor, and that is when it actually kicks off. So slot count is 256. So I am guessing that means that we had to have exceeded our capacity. So let's see, we are doing, so we didn't have any transforms that were free. Let's see, capacity and allocated. So allocated is 127, capacity is 128. Technically speaking, we have that one left. Why do we have... Oh, because we are starting the iteration at 1. I don't remember why I did that at this point. It might have been to let the K transform 0 always be valid, I'm thinking. Anyway, so we want to ensure allocated. So if our state capacity is less than slot count, which it is going to definitely be, we should reallocate all of these arrays all the way down. So this is where we are doing, wait a minute, let's see. So we're invalidating all the parent indices. I'm going to skip past that real quick. Okay. And then, let's see. The dirty handles list is there. And then the capacity is updated to the slot count. So I don't think we've actually hit this yet. So, because we haven't actually had enough transforms in a system. So this is unexercised code, I believe. Okay, so flags sub handle, which hasn't been, let's see, transform count is 128. So this should put that right at the end of the list. And then we should do all these same things in here, which it looks like we are doing. So allocated is incremented, and then, yeah. Okay, so that should be fine. Let's actually see if we hit that again. Really? So we used up another 128 transforms. The only thing I can think of that's got to be happening here is we're taking more transforms than we're releasing because we're sort of unloading the game scene and loading, or before we unload the game scene, we load up the editor scene. So that's going to take a certain number of transforms, and then only once the editor scene is loaded up do we actually release all of those objects in the game scene. And then we also have all of the transforms for all of the UI objects up to this point. So it's going to run through this again. So let's actually just go all the way down here. So the slot count this time should be 512. It is. Okay. And then we, of course, do the same thing again there. And it's hitting it again. What is requesting all these transforms? There's no way we have that many transforms. Deserialize entity. Okay, so editor open. Like, there's no way we have that many. I feel like we're like skipping huge parts of the list here. That's probably what's blowing out the memory of this. Okay, so we deserialize here. Deserialize an entity. We do a K transform from string. Okay, and then that K transform from string is what actually kicks this off. So handle creates K transform from string. Okay, so why are we skipping? Okay, here's our format string. Here's where we read all this stuff in. Right, I have a feeling if we come into the transform system
You dingus.
and we just set this to some stupid high thing like 512, I'll bet this problem goes away. So we'll just run this again. Maybe not. What is requesting all these transforms? There's no way. There's no way we need that many. Oh wait, that's the first, wait. Initial slot count. Oh, I missed that. Okay. Right. That needs to come from transform initialize. Did I not have... What? Did I not write that file? Why is that still 128? Transform system config. Transform system 108. What? Typed config initial slot count. So I guess where is that coming from? That's got to be here in the engine. That's why. What did I call that? Initial slot count, line 545. Let's change this one to 512. I'm going to change the other line. Initial slot count. Okay. Let's build that again and restart. I bet this makes the issue go away. So we should have that breakpoint once. Load editor. Okay. So there's some sort of issue with us reallocating in our transform system. So I'm going to have to keep that in mind. But that button says seen. That's not correct. Let's see. I'm going to put a to do here, or a fix me, I guess. Something about this. Repeatedly asks for larger and larger, oops, size. All right, I'll come back to that. I'll probably troubleshoot that offline. It's going to be some dingus-oriented programming somewhere. Okay, so our button, let's see, our button here still has the text seen in it, which is not helpful. That should be tree. And then in addition to that, we should also have down here, the tree window panel should say just tree on it, right? So we should be able to switch to that back and forth without any issue. Let me get rid of these breakpoints. All right, so we'll load up, go to the editor. Now we have the tree, and now we have a new window. That's positioned there because we don't have the code built into the resize, so I'll be able to show you guys what that actually does. So if we look at editor window and resize, we have some logic here that moves our windows to stick to the right side of the screen. So all that is we basically just grab the size of the screen, subtract the width of the inspector. So that's going to be tree inspector width. Add a little padding to that, and then that will make it actually stick to the right side of the screen on resize. So if we launch this again and go into the editor and go to tree, it's still broken. Really? Did I do the wrong thing? Oh, yes. Might help to actually do the right control, you dingus. All right. Now it should be correct. There we go. All right, so we have the scene mode, we have the entity mode, and we have the tree mode. So the tree, I'm probably going to extend that to be a little bit further. In fact, I might actually make that go all the way to the bottom of the screen, or maybe minus a little bit, just in case, you know, maybe we're on a small screen and, you know, this thing can get in the way. So maybe I'll make it do that instead. But I'll make it stick to the bottom of the screen, right? So it'll just kind of stretch and squash as we resize the window. So I think what I have to do for that is, I do believe I have a set height, I think. Let me see. So we have the translate there. We can start off the height a little bit higher, right? So we can say maybe the height should be like, I don't know, 600. But on the resize, we can also do the K panel height. Do we not have? No, I think it's SUI panel. Do we not have that base? We might actually have that control. We have the ability to do it for text boxes, but apparently not panels. So we need to set that up. So SUI panel. We'll do it in the C file first. So let's see. I guess we can put SUI panel size. So that just returns the size. Let's actually do SUI panel set height. Right, and we'll do standard UI state struct SUI control self. And I guess we could say, oops, we don't need a return type for that. So we can say if self, and then do self bounds height, height equals, I need to actually take an input parameter for that. That's going to be F32 height. F32, or might be an int. I'm not 100% sure. Let me see. Is this an int or a float? It is a float. Okay. So we'll do that, and then I'm also going to just do, while we're at it in here, I probably ought to add this to like the base control, but for now, we'll just do it this way. Because not everything uses those bounds for sizing, which we probably ought to change as well. Whoops, might help if I spelt width correctly. God damn it. There we go. All right, so width and width, and then I'll take these two to the header file. I did have a resize there. Although I don't think that actually goes anywhere, which is cool. Oh yeah, I guess it does. Oh, why didn't I just do that? Actually, that's a lot better. Let's actually just have it call that under the hood, right? So we could just do SUI panel resize, state self, and then the vec2 we're going to do. So for height, we're going to take, we just want to take the existing width, right? So self bounds width, right? And then we want to take height. There we go. And then for width, in fact, actually, since we're checking self here, we can actually just eliminate that check also from this. All right, so this needs to be width, and now it needs to be self bounds height. Oops, height. Right? And then we can take these two. And put them here. I really ought to move this to the self or the base control. Keep hitting the wrong dang keys. There we go. But I think this is a little bit quicker for now, at least. Let's do that. So let's export this symbol. There. Okay, so so SUI panel set height is what we're going to want to use here. So when we do this, we are also going to set the height. So we'll say SUI panel set height. So state. Actually, do we have... We do have SUI states. Okay, so self is going to be the state tree inspector background panel. And then the height is going to be, I guess we'll do window.height minus, let's say 75. I think it might need to be like 100. But we'll start with 75 and see how that looks. Do we need a pointer to this? Yes. Okay. All right. So when we run this and we switch into tree mode, now it's resized. 75 is not near enough, apparently. It needs to be at least 100, I guess. I mean, I don't think this is going to be too much of an issue, but rather be safe than sorry. Let's actually switch this to, I don't know, 120. Give ourselves a little bit of padding. So we go to the tree. Shrink this down. Is that still not enough? Yeah, it is. Okay, perfect. All right, so now at least that won't overlap. So we can actually start building out what our tree looks like at the moment. Let me catch up on some chat. Someone reading, it looks like Rust is just a safer version of CPP, safer like as in C# safer. I don't know that I would put it that way. Rust is more like it's a more rule with an iron fist version of C++, I would say. It touts safety as its, memory safety as its primary its primary objective, but it's still totally possible to write unsafe code in it. Can replace Java, C#, and Python for all I care. Yeah, I mean, they each have their own place, right? Like, yeah, I don't know that it would make a suitable replacement. Rust is more for systems programming. You wouldn't want to use that for like back-end web development, for example. I mean, you could, but I wouldn't recommend it. Python was overly excited in the data science. Yes, it still is. Shell scripts could quite literally replace Pi and Linux for sysadmin stuff. And in fact, I do that. I write all of my bash scripts, or all of my system scripts in bash. Although I'm going to be switching a lot of the bash scripts for this engine to C at some point. But yeah, I mean, I'd much rather just use C. Let me catch up over on the Twitch side. Let's see. There's only one language that will last after humans, and that's brainfuck. Yes. That got held for auto mod Diamond, but yeah, I read it out loud anyways. Segfault on something stupid. Is there any other reason to segfault? Segfaults are always something stupid, right? I'd much rather have a segfault than it be disguised as something else, though. Random question, is it illegal behavior to try an fget path with fnctl for the current working directory handle on POSIX? Good question. My brain's not in that mode right now, so I can't actually answer that. I understand 3/4 of the question, but my brain's just not firing on that cylinder at the moment, I guess. Elemental Magics card game. Hello. How's it going? First time chatter. Welcome. Rust is like C under communism. Yeah, that's a good way of describing it for sure. Jeet, over on the YouTube side. Good to see you. How have you been? I am well. Thank you for asking. I hope you're doing well. Okay, so the way that I'm thinking about this tree is if we actually take a look at the console and I do editor dump hierarchy, if I can spell it correctly. What that actually gives us, and it's a little bit difficult to see here, but if we actually click into the console log that's been written out, what that actually gives us is sort of a list of the scene itself, right? And so we have, parent object, then object that's underneath of it, and then, parent entity that's underneath of it, parent, a couple of children entities, etc., right? And that function will actually, if those entities are several layers deep, it will actually go ahead and list those out accordingly. In fact, let's show what that looks like real quick. So let's go to zone 00. This one. And let's see. Let's find something with children in it. Okay, so I'm going to take this children array and I'm going to duplicate it. Right? So we're going to put in here. I guess we'll do one more layer in. Right? And I'll do a name here, and I'll say another child, and then I'll tab this in a bit, and then here's another child of that. right? So we have that, and then I can actually just take this and move it in one level further. So I guess we could just do, 2 tabs, and then do name equals child, right? I forgot the equals here. And then do children equals open up an array. Do one of these thingies, and then come down here and close out that object, close out the array, right? So we've got some sort of hierarchy built there, right? And so if I go ahead and run this and load and go into here and do editor dump hierarchy. Now when I look at this log, we can actually see this a little bit more clearly, right? So, we have this port to zone 2, which has a child, which has another child, which has a child cube in it. And so it would be nice to be able to represent this visually, where we can actually just sort of, at least for the beginning, have these put in here, maybe have them spaced like this so we can tell one from the next. And then from there, be able to click that and select the actual element, right? So that is going to be the piece that we're going to build now. And so what I'm thinking is, if we, let's see, there's a couple ways I could do this. And this is actually going to test the UI system a little bit, because we actually haven't tested deleting controls. We've only tested actually adding controls. So that's going to be the first thing. So if we take a look at editor, wait a minute, dump hierarchy, right? If we take a look at this guy, and we have the word dump highlighted, that's great. All right, so we have this sort of recursive function here, right? So I'm going to actually take this, and I guess we'll put it, let's see, I guess we can put it, let's see, along with some of our other stuff here. Whoops. Editor. Oh, you know what? That's actually, now I think about it, I don't think we actually have a way to return that kind of hierarchical data from the scene. So we're actually going to have to add that first, because this just prints it to the console. So we actually need a way to represent this in a way that the editor can then pick apart and say what is a parent of what, and so forth. So what we actually need is a k-scene get hierarchy. And again, we're going to leave that const because we don't actually want to affect anything here. And we need some sort of type to represent this, right? So we need like a type def struct k-scene hierarchy node, I guess we can say. If I can spell type def correctly. K-scene hierarchy node, right? And so that's going to include, at least for now, a k entity and a U32 child counts and a k-scene struct K-scene hierarchy node children. Right, so it can include, did I spell? Wow, my dyslexia is kicking in hard today. There we go. Okay, so we can return an array of these, so K-scene hierarchy node. And the way that this will work is basically we'll have an array of these, which will have arrays of other ones as it kind of cascades through. And this will allow us to retrieve any information that we need about the hierarchy as we kind of go through. So it's got the handle to the entity, which is what we need, and then all of the children of that that we can then use from there. So let's actually just go to this real quick. So put this here. Right. And what we're going to do is we're going to set up a recursive function similar to the way that this guy works. That's going to return a hierarchy node, and then we're going to push that into a D array, right? So what we're going to expect here is, I guess we'll have a K-scene hierarchy node, and then we'll do a K-scene get hierarchy internal, right? And from that, we're going to have a, let's see, how do we want to do this? I guess we should say a K entity parent for now. And so that's going to essentially build one of these hierarchy nodes from this parent, right? Which we can start from the root objects in the scene. And then when we come back here, we're going to add the result of that to the array, right? So we'll say a D-array create K-scene hierarchy node. And that's going to be, we'll just call that K-scene hierarchy node nodes, right? And then what we can do is do a loop through, let's see, scene root entities, which I think is a D array in and of itself. It is. So we want to do a D array length on that. So we'll do U32 length is equal to that. And then, standard loop on that. So, for U32I equals 0, I equals less than, or I is less than length plus I, right? And where that came from, we're going to do a K-scene hierarchy node equals K-scene get hierarchy internal. And so that's just going to be scene, and then we're going to want scene root entities sub I. And then we'll do D-array push into nodes node. And then finally return nodes. Okay. So that's going to be how that's going to work. And then essentially we're going to do the same thing here. In fact, I need to rename this. I like to do _R for recursive functions, right? Just to kind of make it obvious that that's what that is. Okay, so in this case, we are going to do a K-scene hierarchy node, and we'll just say node, and that's going to be equal to, and we'll set the entity equal to parent, the child count, we will set to, let's actually get some information on that first. So let's actually do this base here. All right, so we'll go ahead and get that, and this is parents, right? And so we can set child count to base children, which is a D array, so D array length of that. And then the children, of course, are going to be, we don't actually need to use a D array for this, so let's actually set that to k null for a second. Or actually, no, we can actually do, let's take this. Let's take this and do U32 child count. Is that? And then we'll do child count as child count, right? And then we can do k array, klxc array, right? The type of this is going to be k-scene hierarchy node. And the count is going to be child count. Now, that is going to be the case if we actually have child count. So if we have child count, we're going to do that. Otherwise, we're going to do k null on that, right? And then we will return node. Now, obviously we have to recurse, right? So, whoops. So if we do, again, for U32I equals 0, I is less than child count plus I. Then what we can do is we can do node.children sub I equals k-scene get hierarchy internal R scene, and then pass node children. Wait a minute. Base children sub I. Right? So that's going to give us the hierarchy of all of the nodes that we need. Now, we could, and we might wind up actually doing this, we could extract things like the name out of here at this point, because it would probably be a little quicker to do. But I'm going to try and do it without doing that. Because I don't really want to have like more than one source of truth on those things, right? I want to sort of get the name at the time, and then if it changes, we update it. So we have the k-scene get hierarchy, and that is what we're going to use to build out our controls in our editor. So with that, let's actually create a function to refresh this, right? Because that's actually what we're going to need to do. And there's going to be multiple things that are going to cause us to refresh this. So I think a static function to handle this is needed. So we'll say tree refresh. Straightforward stuff, right? So standard, not standard UI state, editor state, state, and that's probably all we need, actually. We can get everything we need from there, I believe. So we're going to go ahead and go to the definition of this one, and we're going to paste this all the way at the bottom. All right, so the way that this is going to work is it's basically going to say if we have a scene, so state editor, edit scene rather, if that exists, then we're going to go ahead and get that hierarchy list. So k-scene hierarchy node nodes, right? is going to be equal to, let me just think about this for a second. I just thought of something I should probably adjust. So we're going to do k-scene get hierarchy, right? And we're going to do the states edit scene. So that's going to get us the nodes. I did just think, though, we are using a D array here, which we actually kind of don't need to do. Because we already know the length of the entities, right? So we can actually just do, instead of this, we'll do this the other way around. And we're going to say k alloc c array, right? That's going to be the type, and then the length is going to be just length. And then here, instead of pushing, we will just do a nodes sub I equals that, right? That's a little bit better. Because now when we go to destroy that thing, we have all the counts and whatnot that we need to destroy it. We can just, sort of do it. We probably need to come up with a function to destroy that, but I'm not going to worry about it for now. I think what I'm going to do is put a to-do in here. To-do destroy recursively when done. When done, right? So that should give us what we need. And now what we need to do is we need to think about how we actually want to display those labels. And I think I am gonna use labels for now, although I don't know if labels actually have, I don't know if an on-click will work with a label, though, is the problem. I might have to use a button, which would kind of suck. Let me take a look at the SUI label real quick. Do we set bounds anywhere? We do not. Okay. So I think what I'm going to do is we're going to do a little bit of trickery here. We're going to do on the text set. I think we should have the ability to do a measure string based on the text. So when we are done with that, I think what we can do, we have type data. We do have, we have a bitmap or system font. How do we know which one? Let's see, do we have? System font variant or bitmap font? I'm using a K handle for that. Ah. Oh, here we go. Okay, so this is essentially what I need to do. All right, so if we have a bitmap font, then we need to do font system bitmap font measure string. That's what I'm looking for right there. And that's, rather than returning, that should give us a vector2 out, right? So we'll do vec2. Actually, we'll just do here vec2 string size, right? And we'll actually just set that to vec to 0 just to be safe, right? Or I guess we could use 1 just so we've got something. And essentially this needs to go to so measure string. What else does it want? The font, the text, and then the out size. Okay, so we have the font, we have the text, typed data, text, and then we'll do the address of string size. Okay. And this is going to be pretty much the same function for system fonts, right? So we'll do just system font there. And then here, this will just need to be system, right? So we've got the measure string for both of those. We get the size of that, and then we can actually set our bounds to that size. So we can do, let's see, self bounds width is going to be equal to string size dot x, and then self bounds height is equal to string size y, and that should make it clickable. And then it'll be clickable based off the size of the text. Now, we could argue maybe we want some sort of better defined click box for that, but for right now, that should be more than good enough for what we need. All right, so what we need to do now is take this list of nodes, which I just realized we don't actually know the length of because I didn't expose that. So let's actually change that real quick. So this needs to have a U32 pointer out count. And then we'll do here out count equals length. And speaking of which, actually, let's move this up here. And then we'll say if length. This is another optimization, right? Because what if we have an empty scene? So let's take this and put it here. And we're going to set that to knull. And then here, if we have length, we'll allocate that and then return it, right? Okay, so this needs to just have a U32 pointer out count. Okay, that should do it for that. And then we'll have a U32 count equals 0, and then we'll update that here, passing the address of count. Okay. So now that we have that, we can actually do our loop. So we could do U32I equals 0. I is less than count plus I. Right? And so in here is where we're actually going to start actually spawning controls. This is where it's going to get a little bit interesting, right? Because what we're going to have to do is we actually have... Let me go back to editor H. So far we have this sort of static list of controls that we have for all of our UI elements for everything that we have. And so what we're actually going to need is some sort of dynamic list of these things. And this is why I'm going to go with one element right now per node. And if we want something fancier than that, then maybe we can use parenting or some sort of custom control for that. But what I'm going to do is all of those things are going to be added to the tree inspector, but we're going to add them after, you know, after the title, right? So what we're going to do is we're going to have a U32 tree element count, and we'll have a SUI control. And we'll do a tree elements. Okay. And so here, when we have this, we're going to do if count, right? And that's actually going to surround all of this, right? However, the first thing that we're going to do is we're going to say if state tree element count if we have any of those, the first thing that we need to do is loop through them and destroy them all, right? So we're actually going to need another loop here. And we're going to do a, destroy all the current controls, right? Because when we're refreshing this, we're going to just sort of do it. Oops. We're going to do it the sort of naive way and just destroy everything and recreate it every time we refresh. We'll just do a SUI label control destroy, right? We'll do states, and then we'll do the address of state tree elements. Wasn't it? Tree elements? Yeah. Sub I. Right. Why is that bleating about state? Oh, it needs to be the SUI state. There we go. Okay, so we destroy all those things, and then we do a k-free type C array. The block is going to be state tree elements. The type is going to be SUI control, and the count is going to be count. Right? And then we'll do state tree elements equals k null, and state tree element count equals 0. Okay? So the first thing we'll do is we'll destroy all of the current controls. And then the next thing is we will loop through and create all the new ones, right? So we'll create all the new labels. And so for these, I'm actually going to cheat a little bit. And I'm actually just going to go to our initialize, where we are creating some labels. And I'm actually just going to grab this. And we're just going to paste this in here. Okay. And before we actually do this, we need to create an array of those things, right? So we need to say state tree element count equals count, and then state tree elements equals KLXC array SUI control count. And then here, what we can actually do is SUI control pointer, and we'll just say label, equals the address of state tree elements sub I. Okay? And so all of these things that say SUI states, I'm actually just going to take a convenience pointer for that, actually, so I don't have to retype all of that stuff. So I'll just do standard UI states, SUI states equals state SUI state. There we go. And the names, I'm not really going to bother. Right? I'm not going to bother making those unique for now. To do make label names unique. The name doesn't really mean much of anything except for debugging purposes, right? Okay, so for each one of these, we have the label that's going to be there, and then we have the k-scene hierarchy node, and we're just going to say node equals the address of nodes sub I. And then here, we can actually just take the text, which is going to be the node. Oh, we haven't actually gotten that right. Right. So we need to actually, instead of node entity, we actually need to get that name, right? So I guess we can do k-scene get name, get entity name. That's what we want. So we want state edit scene, and then the entity is going to be node entity, right? And that, I believe, returns a k-name. Yes. Right? So we get that, and then here, for this, we could just do k-name string get name, right? And so instead of save button label, obviously that's not what we want. We want just label, right? That's already a pointer. And so we're going to set label, right? Label, label, k-transform, I guess we need to do label is visible, and then, whoops, yeah, this just needs to be a label, right? And then we're going to add this as a child to the tree BG panel, right? And then as far as the position goes, so we're going to take, let's see, this says font size -3 on the Y, 10 offset here. So for right now, I'm just going to list them top to bottom. We'll worry about indenting once we actually have this sort of listed out. So for right now, what I'm going to do is, this is sort of an offset for the text. So I think I'm going to do 50 times I plus that offset. Right? Just so it's super explicit what's happening there. So we do that, and then the on click, right? So we have label on click. Instead of save button clicked, I'm going to take a copy of this and paste it here. In fact, actually, no, I'm going to paste it all the way below tree refresh. So they're kind of together. We're going to do, oops, we're going to do, I guess we'll do tree label clicked, right? And so we'll go to that. We'll define what that looks like in just a second. Maybe we'll, write out, we'll just write something out for the time being, or something. One thing we need to do is we need to set some user data, right? And the thing that's going to be the most useful for us is to set that entity. So we can set label user data, and that's going to just be the, let me think, node entity, right? And let's see, that's going to bleat because of the type mismatch, I think. So, I think I'm just going to cast that to a void pointer, which is kind of poop, but it'll work. Because I can cast that back to U64 and it'll be fine. All right, so when we click this, what we're actually going to have is self user data, right? Is going to be a K entity, right? And that's just going to be, cast to K entity, right? And then once we have that, we can do select what is it? Add to selection. Add to selected entities. Right, so editor state. Oh shoot, we don't have editor state, do we? We might need to figure that out. Because I technically need to pass the entity, but also the only kind of state that this has is the standard UI state. It doesn't actually know anything about the editor because it's not aware of that, right? Like, that's the whole point of having the user data. The crap part about it is we're going to have to allocate something in memory. All right, let's I guess do that real quick. We're going to type def a new struct, and it's only going to be used here. We're going to say hierarchy node context. And this is going to have the editor states editor. Whoops. And then it's also going to have the k entity. I will catch up on chat here in just a second. I just want to get this structured out really quickly. All right, so what we'll do is we'll say hierarchy node context, and we're going to have to k-allocate this, dynamic allocation. I hate it, but it is what it is. Actually, let's not do that. Let's do k-alloc type. So the type we're going to use is hierarchy node context, and the memory tag. We don't have editor, do we? We really need a new memory tag. I'll go with engine for now. Right, and when we destroy the current controls, we're also going to have to do k-free type. Oops, not C-array, just type. So the type is going to be hierarchy node context, and the count is going to be, wow, there is no count, actually. All we need is the state tree elements sub-I user data. What am I missing here? Oh, memory tag. Mem tag engine. There we go. Okay. That way we don't leak any of that memory. All right, so the context editor is going to be the state, and then context entity is going to be the nodes sub-I, or I guess just node entity, right? We're not going to worry about children or anything at the moment, but eventually we can pass that along as well. Maybe we'll even pass this along. I haven't decided yet. So when we go to do that, what we're really going to have is a hierarchy node context, hierarchy node context, right? So we'll have that. Now we can do context editor. We just want to add one entity, and the entity we're going to add is going to be the address of context entity. And we can also do editor clear selected entities, context editor, right? And so whenever we click on that, that's what that's going to give us. And we're going to say return true because we don't want anything else to handle that event. Okay. And then instead of save button clicked, we're going to do tree label clicked. All right. It'll be interesting to see how much of this works. So I'm going to try this once. Did I not add it to... Did I not add it to the tree? Why did that not come up at all? I expected to at least see something there. Oh, because I didn't call the actual freaking refresh. That's why. What a dongus. Okay, so let's close this. And I need to call tree refresh because I didn't actually hook that up to anything. And tree button clicked. When we do that, we're going to set the mode, but we're also going to call tree refresh. Let's see, state. Shoot. Editor set mode. Did we have the user data? Okay, the user data is in there. Okay, perfect. Self user data. One more try. I at least expected it's a seg fault or something, you know? It worked. What about that? What about it? Our positioning is a little bit off, right? Our spawn points came up first. But we do have the labels coming up, right? So what happens then if I click one of these labels, like test collision 1? Looks like the click event does not work. Okay, so we got some work to do around that, right? That's fine. Did we context? Interesting that one of them failed. So I probably did something stupid here. But hey, I mean, that's actually more than I was actually expecting to work tonight, to be completely honest. I wasn't expecting that to even render right off the bat, so. A dongus? Yeah, exactly. You know, there's different levels of dingery, right? So you have dingus. Wait, no. You have dangus, which is like ever so slightly above dingus. And then you have dingus, and then you have dongus, and then worst of all is dungus. So yeah, that's kind of the hierarchy there. Dangus and dingus are pretty close, but I assume it's using an ECS architecture. No, it's not. We are using a just a flat structure for entities, right? So there's one level of what you loosely might call inheritance, and that is there's a base entity that all other entities are based off of, but then you have one layer of entity specificity above that. And that's it. There is no components, there is no behaviors, there is none of that stuff. It's just entities for everything. Good, interesting, looking how to pass data to main program for NYUI. Oh, my UI, okay. Yeah, all kinds of good stuff here. I'm gonna check in some of this work, although it's not really working, so I don't know that I'm gonna push it to the branch just yet. But yeah, we've made pretty decent progress, I would say. Casting the void pointer is basically bypassing the type system in this case. Yeah, so the reason we do that whenever we do a void pointer cast, like this user data, it's because I'm basically saying I want to be able to pass any sort of data along with this control whenever it's clicked, as a sort of context. So it can be an integer, it can be a Boolean, it can be whatever, right? And you could just cast it. Or it can be, a dynamically allocated block of memory that we cast on the other side, and get data from. And that's just kind of a way for us to be able to say, I have this bag of data. The control doesn't need to be concerned with what it is, but I need to pass it along with the control to any of the events that get triggered by it. So yes, essentially. Hey there, how's your day going, and how are your floofs doing? They're doing good. Yeah, I mean, none of them are in here at the moment. Wow, none of them, actually. Yeah, they've all abandoned me, so that's fine. We're actually dog sitting our, my sister-in-law's corgi as well, but she has, she's also left. I don't know where she is either, so. But otherwise, good. Memphis, good to see you. Poor Dungus. We skipped the Dengus and Dungus. No, Dungus is there. Dungus is definitely there. Dengus? I don't know. Dengus with an E? I don't know about that one. It sounds too close to Dangus, I think. Just give me something in the size of it, bro. Trust. Exactly. Yeah. That's exactly what's in here. Literally, user data and user size. No co-stars with you at the moment. Must be sad. Yeah. I've been abandoned, but what can you do, right? Oh no, he used the void pointer. I use them a lot, although I use them a lot less than I used to. But for something like this, it's invaluable for sure. Let's see. Why do database programs use proprietary languages? Why SQL and not just invoke a call with your language of choice? It could be a framework or library. I mean, to be honest, with databases, yeah, a lot of them have SQL. Oops, wait a minute. Oh, I have company. Hold on. She's going to be mad I picked her up. She's like, see, I came in here and you picked me up, you bastard. But let me switch my camera. Here she is. She's none too pleased to be picked up, but that's my Japanese bobtail. She's 15. But yeah. She came in here to say hi and probably harass me because I need to go to bed. But yeah, she wants to leave. Enough of that, she says. But yeah, so floof. She hates being picked up, so I try not to do it too much, but yeah, as far as SQL databases are, the funny thing is there are, like, a lot of modern databases do actually allow you to program directly against it. Like, you can use C# against Microsoft SQL databases and stuff like that these days. So you can actually do that. You can actually compile code to run directly against the database. Anyways, I think that's going to do it for tonight. We made pretty decent progress. I'm going to work on this tree a little bit more, probably over the weekend, and see where I can get on it. See if I can get the selection working, see if I can't get the, a little bit more of a tree view working. But yeah, there we are. So let me find somebody to raid. I think I see who I'm going to raid, but let me just scroll the old list real fast. Yeah, okay. At least on the YouTube side, or sorry, on the Twitch side, we are going to raid Moonwood Games. And I actually don't know on the YouTube side. I don't remember if he's one of the ones that streams to both or not, but I can check. Yes, he does stream on YouTube as well. So we're going to go ahead and redirect on the YouTube side to him as well. All right, cool. So, yeah, thank you guys so much for being here. It was a pretty productive stream. I know I was kind of heads down coding for quite a while, but sometimes it's just the way you get things done, right? But yeah, I really appreciate you guys being here, and I will catch you guys on the next stream. See you guys.